Okay, for our first example, we're going to be looking at a line or a linear function. This one is y equals 2x plus 1, and I am going to graph that. I'm not going to focus a lot today on how to graph these functions, but I am going to go ahead and graph it. For this one, I've got a y-intercept of 1 and a slope of 2, so I'm going up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Just going to get a bunch of points on here, and then hopefully draw a pretty straight line. Doesn't look that great, but that's okay, we can still talk about it. I put arrows on the ends of the line because that is important for domain and range. We're going on forever and ever and ever. So for the domain, we're going to look at just the horizontal part of the function. So I'm looking, starting at negative infinity, or negative 5 right here, and going across. And I don't see anywhere on the graph where I don't have a point that goes with an x value. So even though my graph kind of stops right here, I could keep pulling it down, and even at negative 5 I'd have a point that goes with a function. Even if I went over here, I'd have a point that was with that x value. Same thing on the right. And if I look at the actual equation, I can't think of any numbers I'm not allowed to plug in for x. So my domain for this linear function is all real numbers. You can either write it like that, you can write out the words all real numbers, or you can use what's called interval notation, saying that you can go from negative infinity to positive infinity. And in interval notation, you use parentheses around your infinity signs always. Okay, so whatever you're comfortable with, there's different ways to write down your domain and your range. Now for the range, it's pretty similar actually. I'm only going to look vertically, so I'm going to look on the y-axis, and I have a point that goes with every single y value on the y-axis. For example, at negative 3, I can go over, there's a point on the line that goes with that y. For 1, there's a point that goes with that y value on the line. Okay, for every single y value, there's a point on the line. So because my range, my domain was all real numbers, and I plug in anything I want, I'm actually getting out any number in the real number set. So my range is going to be all real numbers. Okay, so I can write it similarly here. Or I could actually write out the words all real numbers. Okay, so that's pretty typical of a linear example. Not a lot of excitement on these. It doesn't really showcase what kinds of restrictions we might have, so we're going to get into that more on some of the next videos.